Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show host or the guest are their own. Enjoy the show.
Hey y'all, and welcome to Straight Up with MS and all its crazy little circles here on MS&Me Radio, brought to you by the MS Global Support Network. I'm your host, Patty Long, at MS and It for Life, and I spell that MSENIT, the number 4, LIFE. Of course, I still haven't figured out how to work YouTube, but I have figured out how to get on a plane and how to swap planes and how to get all the way to the UK, because I'm here. So I made it. Yay! It's been really exciting and really challenging. I got to admit, because first off, I had to suck it up and ride in a wheelchair because, disabilities only come with a wheelchair. And I say suck it up because I've worked really, really hard to stay out of one and keep myself out of one. So I did have to kind of suck that part up and just, because I absolutely positively needed the cognitive help. And with the distance from one where you got off the plane to where you got onto the plane and all of what was in between, I would have been so mixed up. And in some cases, it was so far that even though I walk just fine, I wouldn't have made it. I had bags to carry and all of that. And with those bags, I really don't think I would have had enough time, especially when my flight from Dublin ended up doing this little butterfly thing. And I think it's really cool, y'all, because if you choose to, you can watch yourself travel on the map. And there's a little picture of an airplane, and you can watch it as it goes to its destination. And so that's why I say it was this little butterfly loop thing. And the pilot came on the announcements and said, "We're in a holding pattern now." And this was when we were waiting to land at Dublin. And so we were watching the plane on the little map, and it made a circle, and then it made another circle. And by the time it was done making all of its circles, it looked very much like a butterfly. And so I just thought that was kind of humorous that he made butterfly circles. And finally we did get landed, but there wasn't a whole lot of time between my flight into Dublin and my flight out of Dublin. And so with being possibly a few minutes behind schedule, and with how far of a distance it was, because that airport is huge, and it was, humongous. And the little lady that was pushing me, and I felt so bad, the whole time about the wheelchair thing, because I feel like there were people that probably could not walk and that needed that wheelchair more than I did. And so I felt really guilty about that. But y'all, I wouldn't have made it at Dublin at all. It was way too far and way too huge. And I wouldn't have even made it in Boston, where I was switching from JetBlue to Aer Lingus. And, that I would have been confused. So even though I had a lot of time in between there, or I should say enough time in between there, I don't think that it would have been possible to walk it all by myself. So I needed that cognitive help. And I think part of the issue with that is that wheelchair symbol on everybody's stuff for handicap has made the entire world believe that handicap means wheelchair. But there are a lot of handicaps that don't involve sitting in a chair. So, but I felt guilty because in order to get those services that I did need, I had to take a wheelchair. And so I felt guilty that I was taking a chair away from someone who needed it. And I know I shouldn't, but I did, especially when I was sitting there in Boston and there was a guy frantically screaming because they still hadn't brought a wheelchair for his wife, and they had just announced that the plane was boarding and for people with young children and disabilities to come on and get on the plane. Now, I was sitting in a wheelchair. So I felt really guilty, and I'm like thinking, should I tell him? Should I say I can walk and let's let her have this chair? Because he was frantic. And I even asked the person who was pushing me, and he said, no, ma'am, that's fine. I said, because I can make it from here to there. I can't walk real far, but I can make it from here to there, and I can walk really far. But I didn't want to lose my help through the rest of my journey either, So I kind of had to stumble upon my words because I said I can walk, and then I had to quickly, say something else so I didn't lose my services. And but he was like, no, it's fine. It's absolutely fine because we have more chairs. They're on their way, and they'll have one here before I can get you to the plane. And I'm like, okay. So when I got to the entrance of the plane, to where you actually are stepping into the plane, then it was time for me to get off the chair. So I wonder what happens if somebody truly was paralyzed, where our MS paralyzation is a little bit different from a severed spine. It's a damaged spine, it's a damaged this, it's a damaged that, but the nerves themselves have not been cut slam in two. So I wondered, what happens if there is somebody who's had their legs amputated or who has severed their spinal cord? How do they get into the plane if you have to stop at the door? But I was afraid to ask that question too, so I never did find out, y'all. And I feel guilty about it because, I didn't want to make out like I needed more help than what I needed, but at the same time I needed my help. And my cognitive difficulties, whether people want to believe in cognitive difficulties or not, are 100% real, If you give me 3 choices, then I'm baffled. I can't make a decision between 3 things. If you give me 2, I do pretty decent because usually one of them I don't want, like if we're talking about supper, or I don't like if we're talking about, something to do. But if you give me 3 and I have 2 things that I like, or more than that, then I'm lost and I can't decide. And I'm just like, draw a complete blank. If somebody was to ask me, what do you want for dinner? I mean, that's a wide open ballpark. And I can't do wide open ballparks, I need a little close space. So give me a decision between 2 things and I can decide. Give me a decision between, 5 things and I can't even speak. Give me a decision between 3 things and I'm like, I don't know. And if it's a wide open ballpark, I'll get so frustrated, I'll just say, forget it, because I become frustrated and it's not worth the frustration. And I'll say, either you decide, and I remember telling my dad this early on when he was asking me something about food, and an appetizer, and I don't even remember what the choices were, but he asked me to pick the appetizer. And I'm like, either you decide or we're not getting one. And I wasn't trying to be rude and ugly, but I'd already asked him to pick several times. But he didn't understand that decision making is a very difficult skill. It's one we usually learn when we're very young, but I haven't relearned that skill. Still, I haven't relearned that skill. So I'm not very good at it, and I get so frustrated that it becomes something that's not important to me. Staying away from frustrations is, which again is why I kind of stopped myself from saying I didn't need the wheelchair and saying I just can't walk far, instead of saying I don't need it at all, because I didn't want to lose my services. And I almost, when I said I don't need it, they looked at me. And I said, well, I can walk. I just can't walk far, because of the look on their face. And I felt, I'm an honest person. So if I tell a story like that, then I feel so bad. It's like ridiculous. If I'm joking around and goofing off and I tell somebody a story, goofing off, and I'm grinning and laughing at them, that's different. But when it was something like that, it's more like a flat out lie. Now, of course, that also depends on your interpretation of walking far. I used to be able to hike 20 miles up and down and through the mountains in a day. So, 20 miles wasn't too far. Shoot, I even did it with little kids. My 4-year-old could do it. Now, he's 23 now, but, at the time, the first time he did a really long hike, he was 4. So, and he could do it. So, if I go based on that, I don't walk really far anymore. I don't think I could do 20 miles in a day anymore. I could, get 10, maybe. Probably not, but maybe. That's where my wish stone is at right now, is that I could make it for 10 miles in one day. But I don't know that I could, because the farthest I've done is the equivalent of a 10K, which is 6.2225, somewhere around 6.25 miles. So, but that's the furthest that I have walked, and I've only done that once. And I know that I am here in the UK, and I am staying with the Hadfields. Tony Hadfield's mom and dad are absolutely fabulous people. They are wonderful. They love to laugh and goof off and have a good time. They understand the difference between a joke and not a joke, and all of that. So we are getting along fabulously well, or at least I think so. I hope they think so. But, I'm not a really good judge of everything like I used to be. So sometimes it's a little hard for me to tell, but they knew when I was joking. So like when I played that I was pouting because I did so poorly in a game, which you guys know I don't care if I win or lose. It's just the fact that I got to play and have fun that counts. So I've told y'all that 100 times probably by now, because, I shoot pool and I don't care if I win or lose. And it's the same way with cards. It's the same way with the Wii. And we were playing on the Wii, and I was getting picked on from Tony. And I've talked about Tony Hadfield. So he's Tony Hadfield of Tony's Wobbly Walk across the UK. 14 miles short of 1,000, which is just ridiculous. I can't even comprehend it. But yeah, he was teasing me, so I was pretending to pout and turn my back and stuck my lip out and ha ha ha, kind of thing. And I could see that Tony's dad was sitting there giggling, and laughing and smiling. And then he was messing with me, like he was mad, and had this really, straight face and all of this stuff. But I knew he wasn't mad. And it was, these kinds of things that are humorous, and they're meant to be funny. And so, it's like acting. You know that this isn't a real thing. It's a movie. It's a TV show. It's acting. Even reality TV show is acting, people. It's not real. This isn't the way these people really live their lives. But they've become famous for pretending this is real. So, it's acting. And acting should be fun and funny. And it should be fun and funny for both the person seeing it and the person doing it. And it is, so they're great, great, great people. I'm falling in love with the UK. I am glad, though, that I'm not trying to drive here because, of course, they drive on the wrong side of the road, or else, actually, we do. But we're on the right, and they're on the left, and my blind side is the right side. So I'm kind of glad that we are on the left side of the road in the U.S., because otherwise I'd be very afraid, that I was, especially on a narrow road. Excuse me, guys. There's been something burning. I could smell something that smelled like a fire, and so I think that's got my whatever going on here. But anyways, excuse me. But yeah, it's just so funny, though, because I kept trying to get in on the passenger side of this car, and Tony would tell me I needed to walk around the car and go and get in on the other side. Are you driving? No. Well, get in on the other side. It's like, duh. I knew this long before I ever came up here, long before I ever heard of the Oceans of Hope, long before I was invited on the Oceans of Hope Challenge. I knew that over here they drove on the left side of the road, and that the steering wheel was placed in the appropriate place for driving on the other side of the road. But for some reason, I can't get it through my thick skull not to walk around to the driver's side of the car to get in, because that's supposed to be the passenger side, right? Am I right or am I right? So you go to another country where it's flip-flop like that, and I would say that we're all going to do that. If Tony came to the U.S. and I picked him up in my car, I'd have to remind him as well, because we have MS, so we don't necessarily remember things. And also, with having MS and not necessarily remembering things, and then being in a strange place, there's a little, and I don't mean strange in a weird way, but it's different for me. And so, yeah, I found myself continually trying to get in on the driver's side, even though I was a passenger. Oh well. And I've been running my mouth nonstop. That might be part of my cough, too, because I've been so excited. But it's definitely not a sick cough. Even though I can't seem to stop. But it's not a sick cough. And you know how you can kind of tell the difference. It's more like an allergy cough, like something like I would get if somebody sprayed Lysol, because the scent of Lysol always makes me cough. And it's crazy how that happens, but a lot of people think allergies are just runny nose and watery eyes and sniffles or something like that, but for me, an allergy is a cough. And I know other people that have allergies, and it's a cough for them too. So we're going with allergy. But the weather here has been fantastic. I was worried about it being too cold because I kept hearing all these horror stories from these people who I'm not really friends with, but who know who I am and who are friends with somebody else in my family. And the horror stories were, oh, she's gonna freeze. She's gonna freeze. She's going to freeze. And I'm like, so I'm all nervous about the weather. And I couldn't check what the weather was going to be like when I first started hearing this stuff because we're still in the wintertime and we get a 10-day forecast max, So, but it's been fabulous. I've actually been hot. I could have been wearing shorts this whole time, guys. It's amazing. The weather's been nice. I haven't gotten rained on yet. Now, I've only been here 2 days, but 2 days and I haven't been rained on, and I'm in the UK. Right now I'm in Sheffield, England, and tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock we're going to be getting on a train, and that's 7 a.m., y'all. And that's very early, very, very early for me. So at 7 a.m., we are going to be at a train station. Or no, at 7 a.m., we're leaving for the train station because the train station is only a few minutes away. But we'll be leaving for the train station and heading to Scotland to Oban. And that'll give me a couple of days to get used to the weather and find out, do I need to buy some shorts? Do I need to buy another pair of capris? Do I need to replace the pair of blue jeans that I was wearing the day that I flew up here and broke the zipper on this pair of blue jeans? I finally had a pair that fit me, y'all, and I broke the zipper. And I don't know how I did it. I don't know what happened. It'll zip up and down, but it won't stay zipped. And there's no missing pieces or anything, but it will not stay zipped. So I started thinking, well, maybe I should sew it shut. That would work. And I might, when I get home, try and just sew it shut, because they're stretchy kind of blue jeans, that stretchy material. So I really don't need to unzip them. I don't need the zipper. And I'd be more comfortable, despite the fact that nobody can tell they're unzipped if they were zipped, There's just something about having your fly open, as they say. You don't want your fly open. You want your pants zipped up. And you don't want to be hearing XYZ, meaning check your zipper. And I don't know why that's an X, since check is with a C, but XYZ is examine your zipper or check your zipper, and examine doesn't start with an X either. So I don't know. Maybe it's because that's the first sound in examine is that people say is the X sound, but in any case, the XYZ thing, I don't know. But you don't walk around with pants on that the zipper is broken. I don't anyways. I might at home, but I don't usually go out in public that way. But yeah, it's crazy. I have had such a fabulous time and been so full of energy that Tony probably is thinking, this girl never gets tired. Of course, he's not here at this time of the evening. He's already home, so he doesn't know how exhausted I am by this time of night. But he'll how's it go? Wobbly, 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 wobbly. To get that tongue tied out. And he hasn't seen me trying to get awake, and he hasn't seen me later in the evenings when I'm just so exhausted. But I do get hyper, and I am very hyper because I am very excited, and I'm one of these people that the more hyper and excited I get, or the more excited, the more hyper I get, I should say. the more my mouth runs. And I've already got a broken filter. I never know when to shut up, and I never know how loud I'm being because I'm just not sure. And I never know what's going to pop out of my mouth because whatever pops into my head just sort of spills. So my filter's broken. But hey, it happens. So I've been running my mouth enough for everybody. But I'll calm down eventually. And I'm sure that when we get back from our sail, I'll let Tony do all the talking and I'll just pass out. And he can tell his folks all about the trip. He can tell his daughters all about the trip. I have now met them both, and they're both wonderful people, too. I mean, the whole family is. And that's usually the way it works. When you have great parents, you have great kids. When you have great kids, they have great kids. And that's how family works. So be good to your family, guys. And if you've got MS and you're having a rough day and you've got kids, tell them, it's a rough day for me today. I'm sorry if I sound snappy. I'm sorry if I sound angry, but it's not with you, and I'm not meaning to sound angry. I'm not meaning to be snappy, because family means everything. And you'll realize that when you have none. But most people take that kind of thing for granted until they have none. So, make sure your family understands that if you're snappy, that you're not mad. It doesn't necessarily mean you're mad. So anyways, I've been running my mouth and having a good time. We walked around town. We went and I found me some pants, some waterproof pants that fit. And I'm so excited about that. And they're kid size, which doesn't bother me so much. Except for here in the UK, it's funny because they're sized based on age. And I'm like, so do all 14-year-olds? Are they all the same size here? Because I bought the size 14 so that I have a little extra room just in case I need that little extra room for over top of blue jeans and layers and stuff. But the way the weather's been, I doubt I will. And I'm already out of time, y'all. See, I love running my mouth so much, I'm out of time. But I'm having a great time. I made it safely. And the next time you hear my voice, you're going to hear the voice of everybody else on board. So I love you guys. Remember, smile big, smile often, and most importantly, what do you do most importantly, guys? You love yourself, including your MS part. You love that part of you too, because it is a part of you. And the sooner you realize that it's a part of you and that you get to love it, then the better off you'll be. So love your whole entire self, and y'all have a wonderful week. So till next time, bye.